Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
Oh, and I'm Mike Field. I guess we are doing that. Okay.
I mean, we still got to say our names. And welcome to Forgotten Cinema. This time, though, it's a little different. We're doing an interview, behind-the-scenes interview with the creators of two of the creators of ZombieCON Volume 1. I've got Erin, Áine with me, and Kyle Valle. And we're going to go over a little bit about the creation of their indie baby and about the filmmaking process, I guess. So, guys, you guys want to introduce yourselves and introduce ZombieCON?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us, guys. I'm Erin, Áine, producer, co-writer, one of the stars of ZombieCON Vol 1. Lucky to be joined here by my wonderful husband.
And that's me, Kyle Valle. Thank you so much for having us. It's going to be fantastic. Director of ZombieCON Volume 1.
Excellent.
Awesome.
No, yeah, great. Mike, I'm going to go first, I guess. I'm going to ask the first question.
Okay.
So obviously, Mike and I watched the film, and I was looking up some notes on IMDb and all that stuff. I noticed that the film has a long history. I'm curious because I think when Erin, you reached out, you kind of mentioned how this has been like a 10-year journey or 10-year trek, I believe. I'm curious, and you don't have to give me every single moment, but I'm very curious in terms of just how far back this goes, and because you have two listings, you have the one from 2018, you have obviously Volume 1. So I'm very curious, like where you came from and how you got to where we are right now with the project, with the product of ZombieCON Volume 1.
Absolutely. Take it away, Kyle. This one's all you.
Yeah, I got it. So basically, we had done a number of short films and web series, and we tried to develop a competitor to YouTube on like a $10,000 budget. It did not go well, which is why you've never heard of it. But after doing that stuff, we're like, we need to do something bigger to get some attention. We decided to kind of take a stab at making a feature film, and Zombies seemed like an obvious choice from an indie perspective. And this is like 2016, 2015 time period. So the story of ZombieCON kind of came together through a number of inspirations. And when we finally got the script written and we were looking for funding, which was like the first big hurdle, we did like an Indiegogo, ended up finding a private investor. We're finally greenlit to actually make the movie. We filmed it 30 days, thought, fantastic. 2016 is going to be our year. We'll have it released by the end of the year. Yes, not so much. The post-production journey was very harrowing, to say the least, having to learn everything kind of ourselves on the go with no formal training in any of this and no idea what kind of pitfalls would lay before us. And 2018 rolled around and we had a rough cut of the movie, and we wanted to kind of get people's feedback, see what audiences thought of the film, but didn't have enough money to get test screenings. So we thought, okay, well, what about film festivals? We can submit it as an unfinished film, and it actually got picked up as an unfinished film, shown as an unfinished film. And that was all great until it got nominated for a couple of awards and then won one, which IMDb took to say, oh, you've won an award. You are now released and completed. I was like, that's not completed, nor is it released.
Pump the brake, guys. Whoa.
So that started a couple hundred email back and forth between me and the poor people at IMDb who had to answer all of my questions as I got extremely legal with their kind of paperwork. And they eventually, I think a senior manager was like, yeah, we're never going to change it. This is going to be how it is. Goodbye. Like, please don't contact us again. And so I was, okay, well, that'll be fine. We've never distributed a movie before, so we didn't know how bad that was. But we kept going with the post-production process, editing it, re-editing it, fixing things, shooting insert shots until COVID happened. COVID stops the world, and I, as the perfectionist, I'm like, oh, I've got time to remake the entire movie. So we remade the whole movie during COVID, and finally got a sales agent on the back end of that with the new cut of the film, which is similar to the previous shown version, but it is totally different. And he's like, yeah, guys, I love the film, but you have an IMDb page from 2018. We're like in 2024. Like, no one's going to buy this film. So I'm like, I guess that's a problem I didn't think of. And he came up with the idea of, if we retitle it, that can, because it is a different film, technically it deserves its own title. We'll get a new IMDb page. So we retitled the film, which is kind of one of those things in filmmaking where accidents, if you embrace them, can sometimes turn to your favor, because it was always the first part in a series of films. So the volume 1 actually works a lot better than the initial title, because it lets the audience know, hey, this is just kind of the opening chapter. And fast forward a year later, and we're here talking to you guys after it's been released. So that's
nice. It's been a saga.
In as small of a nutshell as I can put it.
But I mean, that's indie film, right? That's just kind of, what happens. And I mean, I know Mike and I have experienced that a couple times with a lot of stuff that we've done. It's just, you just got to kind of like find your way. Because honestly, if you were like, nah, it's not going to work, you'll never get it started, so you have to just kind of like get yourself going. Yeah.
It is nonstop hurdles. That's like the mainstay of it all. And you just constantly finding your way to jump over them or knock them down or go around them, some iteration of it.
Yeah. I remember being on stage talking about one of the films we did, and I remember calling it Organized Chaos, which it's great. It's like there is some organization there, but it is just chaos. But honestly, it's awesome. It's an awesome experience. So I'm glad you are where you are now with Volume 1. So that's great.
Same here. Yeah. Nice to be out of post-production.
Organized Chaos.
So I guess the next thing is, so you guys kind of talked about it a little bit, like why you chose zombies and stuff, but like, so what was the writing process like, especially when you guys had 3 writers attached to this film? I know we've talked about it on the podcast before where there's a lot of writers. Obviously one person does a draft, in some Hollywood circles, other times there's writing partners. And I've always been fascinated. I know Field writes stuff, I've written stuff, but it's always like separate. What was it like writing with, the 3 of you guys together? Like, did you guys butt heads? Did someone have one idea and you kind of, it flowed? Was it kind of like how I imagine, all the comedy bits about like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck doing stuff where Ben Affleck is on the couch while Matt Damon's typing the stuff out and he's just chilling?
Yeah, this would be, I mean, Kyle is an amazingly fast writer, and once he gets going on a story, he does not stop. He's like absolutely relentless. So our process was basically Kyle coming up with the framework, sitting down, bouncing ideas off, saying, do you want to, take this kind of scene and run with it? And he would come back with just page after page because he wasn't slowing down writing. And so Manny and I were kind of like bounce boards and back and forth and would, take a look at scenes or this and that. But ultimately, Kyle was just completing the entire script and just like not stopping. He actually has even written ZombieCON Volume 2, 3, 4, and 5 already.
Oof.
And then he's beat it out all the way to ZombieCon Vol 10. So we were kind of like Manny and I along the ride of Kyle's journey of writing this film, but we were both like very happy to be a part of the process and there for the bouncing around of ideas and different scenes and different lines and this and that, and kind of giving our feedback too. But yeah, it was not much butting heads, really more like off to the races when it comes to the writing of this film.
That's awesome.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, no, I wanted to just, Manny and Erin were fantastic to talk through. Like I had said, we had done a bunch of web series and short films, and I'd written all that stuff myself. None of it achieved any kind of noteworthy praise. So I was kind of feeling very like bruised as an artist, like what's wrong with me? Why can't I do something that's like
in there
really hitting home? And they were both bastions of safety where I could explore ideas and be like, is this good? It's kind of good. They'll be like, yeah, it's good. Maybe like in this direction. Be like, okay, is that better? Like, yeah.
It's
So
worth noting. It's worth noting too, though, that with the Rockets, the four main characters, Kyle in real life is like the archetype of bringing us all together, or I guess the not archetype, but the main cog in the wheel, because he and Punky actually knew each other way back when they'd met in an acting class and ended up living together around the same time. He and Christian, who plays Javier, met at another acting class, became friends, and the three of them were all friends. And then shortly thereafter, Kyle and I met, and then we're dating and starting the production company. And Manny joined in 2015 as an intern in the production company and quickly became a partner in the company. So he was kind of like also, using all of our characters in real life and having all that jogging around his brain when he's creating the Rockets.
Well, I actually had ulterior motives in meeting all of you. It was my plan to make this movie from about 2012, and I was just searching for the right actors.
So we're not a 10-year journey. We're now a crazy 17-year journey or so.
Yeah, no, I'll go full James Cameron on this. I actually had the idea as a 5-year-old. I had a fever dream as a 5-year-old.
But the technology wasn't ready yet for you to pursue it. I get you.
That's 100% correct. Yeah.
Your dad was whispering it in your ear as he was changing your diaper. He gets the credit.
No, it wasn't his idea. It was all mine.
What actually that actually brings me to my next question is I'm sure there's a lot of different influences on the script, on the movie. I'm curious what the major one was. Was it zombie movies? I know you mentioned that was an easy choice for you to make for an indie. Was it the world of conventions and cosplay? Was it just personal experiences with Hollywood a-holes as we see in the movie? But I'm curious, what was the main spark that was yeah, I want to do something. I want to write a story about this.
So it's a multi-tiered answer, but again, we already touched on the zombies and stuff, but the idea of kind of bringing cosplay and con culture into it came from, I was actually in my brother's house in Florida and was in the process of kind of hitting my head against the wall again after those short films and stuff. And we had decided we're going to do a zombie movie, and I saw a Captain America shield on the wall, and I was like, that would be really fun to kill a zombie with that shield. He could also use it as self-defense weapon. I start looking around because he's got his whole house is like a museum. It's tons of movie props and replicas and stuff. And I started getting all these ideas about how I could use this stuff to kill zombies. And I was like, well, who would have this stuff other than my brother who collects movie props? And I was like, oh, cosplayers do. I'm a cosplayer. I've got some of this stuff. And then that was kind of the fuse that was lit that then bled into the entire thing. In terms of other big inspirations, definitely anime was a huge inspiration in trying to take, because I've been an anime fan since the Dark Ages in the early 90s. So it was trying to take those influences and not do a live action anime, but take those heightened elements of action and blood spray and all this stuff and kind of try to merge it with a live action feature film. And then, obviously the film is riddled with pop culture references. And I think each one of those served in a small way to influence a different portion of the film, from, whether it be a visual aesthetic to a costume choice to a character direction or something like that. And it was kind of me relying on my entire life of being a fan, and usually being a fan on the time when you got made fun of for liking things super, when I was a kid, you couldn't go to school and be like, oh, you see X-Men with Wolverine in the 90s card, it was fantastic. Everyone would make fun of me. They're always talking about sports and base, all these numbers with base. I'm I don't even know how you remember this many names and numbers. And so a lot of it came from a lifetime of repressed childhood loves, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say anime, not as the original Inception idea, he had shared with his brother and the shield on the wall, but as a story element and the main driving force. Because the zombies, who doesn't love a good zombie movie? And being an indie horror and our first feature film, it seemed like the natural choice, something we could do with a super limited budget, no stars, and it still be approachable and people, maybe wanting to check it out. But then wanting to tell the story, yes, with the cosplayers, tell it in a different type of way, and it unfolding. And as strange as it sounds, we really weren't approaching this with any singular zombie movie being like, we really want to go with this style, or we want to avoid this style so that we don't, copy. The zombie movie was always like the exciting element, but it was more in the background than the cosplayers, the four main friends, the journey they're going on. That was kind of always like the main central focus.
Didn't follow the zombie conventions, like the you put the thing in the head and it's like, no, you got to go for the heart. It's like, I like that. Like that was clever. It's like, okay, so it's different than your everyday zombie. It's like, okay, the heart is a nice touch instead of, everything's the brain.
Yeah.
And this was the heart. I kind of like that.
We brought in our own conventions, if you will. Had to, sorry. But yeah, definitely didn't want to retread, every zombie movie is its own whole vehicle, and so many of them are just absolutely incredible, and we didn't want to recreate a single one, just kind of wanted to always do our own thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously you guys talked about like kind of the post-production and like the saga like to get ZombieCon to where it is now, ZombieCon Volume 1. So were there any like challenges during filming that you guys experienced? Not necessarily post-production or pre-production, but like during production, something that you kind of were like, we'll get through this scene real easy or this real easy. And then it kind of became like a challenge that you guys had to overcome, and the scene maybe became better for it, or you have to change direction.
Yeah. Name the scene and we'll go on the whole war story. Nothing was easy about this freaking movie. But I guess I'll start at the beginning. The first one that popped into my mind was the very first day of filming. We knew that we had roughly, let's say, like 28 days of filming, with a couple, mostly the month of July, a couple days sprinkled in there for off days. And the very first day, at the very end of the day, I think we might have gotten one shot off because we were experiencing extreme technical difficulties. Kyle can share with this, but the camera or the rig or the battery with the camera and the rig, it wasn't working. So we had everything in place. We're like burning cash and time, and we're just sitting there being like, I know at the end of the day, I'm going, holy shit, we're in for it. This is only day one.
Yeah, luckily we turned that ship around pretty quickly, but I mean, the problems did persist. Like every single scene had its own kind of crazy thing that happened. But I'd say that the park day was one of the worst. It was like 2.5 hours away from where base camp was, the apartment that was mine and Erin's apartment. And I was an idiot. And I left the large LP battery for the Canon C300 on the charging plate and only brought the small battery. So we had about 60 minutes of runtime, and we only had the location for a couple hours. We would have burnt, we couldn't have afforded to send someone on a 5-hour round trip to go get it back. We would have been done at the location. So we had to make that work. And then to make matters even worse, in the middle of shooting that scene, there was an electrical wire that was not run by us. It was run by the location. And I was running backwards as the zombie was kind of attacking the camera. And I tripped holding the camera rig over that wire. And me and the camera go down. I see the sensor kind of do a little shudder, like in the LCD monitor. And I'm like, that's not good. And of course, like I'm kind of hurt. Everyone comes running in. They're like, oh my God. Is the camera okay? I'm like,
it's the most important thing.
I'm not okay. Yeah, but check the camera. But luckily, it was operable. We were able to make it work. But that was it just added unnecessary stress because of my own stupidity to the entire process of that particular night. And it was a night shoot. And it was pretty late at night. And again, it was a super far drive away. So that was a nightmare.
One of the memorable bits, and this one actually didn't end up being terrible, but just a funny slice of life. Someone thought that our AnimeCon West convention that we were throwing for the shoot was so realistic that they called the cops on us because we weren't allowed to throw a convention at this, a tiny location. And the cops show up and they're like, oh, this isn't a convention? Like, we see the costumes. Like, this looks great. Like, you guys are filming a movie? Oh.
It was the actual... So in LA, they've got film police, right? That, police all the rules on set. And so they're like the technical film police. That's how they introduce themselves. And they were like, someone was like, I'll get the director for you. So we had a system of shooting there. We called it the human centipede, and it's me connected via an SDI cord to a Ninja Atmos that was recording out to in 4K, 4K RAW. And so my focus puller, Phil, he's holding that Atmos thing connected to me by an SDI cable because we didn't have enough money for wireless transmission. And behind him is our sole boom pole operator, Chad Tolson. And we kind of move in a line everywhere we went. And so we all come walking up, with the camera rig and everything. And the guys take one look at us. They're like, did you have enough parking for everyone here? And I'm like, I think we did. And they're just looking at the sad state of our tiny film crew. And I think they just took absolute pity on us. They're like, okay, look, here's my card. If anyone gives you a problem, just give me a call for the rest of the shoot. I'm like, oh, thanks. And we turn around and go back. And it wasn't
back to our
later that I
business.
realized, we talked to someone else, like, you had the film police come? That could have been a really big problem. I was like, oh, yeah, they were super nice. They gave me the card. They're like, oh, man, they felt really bad for you.
Yeah, luckily we were buttoned up. We did not steal shots. We had all of our permits and ducks in a row, so we were fine in that regard too. But I have to share now one more, and again, this is things gone right. It didn't go wrong on this one. But we were doing a cosplay photo shoot, and we were out in the park in at North Hollywood at one of these big parks. And cops kind of pull up and they're talking to us, and we're in Mario Party adjacent, right? Characters, not straight Mario Party, copyright reasons. But the cops were like, oh, you guys look awesome. And they're chatting with us. What's the movie about? Oh, we love zombie movies. And then they're like, hey, it looked really cool for your photo shoot. Do you want to use our car? Do you want to, the characters come sit in our car? And we're like, yeah. Hold on, let's get the lights going. So pull it up into the park it, put the lights going. We're in there. They give us handcuffs. Now you should handcuff Bowser. The funky is getting handcuffed. Nice. And one of my favorite is that we're in the car, and Christian, who plays Javier, is and he's filming. He's like, guys, look. And he's pointing at the gun, for the cop's gun sitting out. And we're like, don't look at it. Don't mention it. Don't even start. It made for some great photos too. And they were right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, you mentioned that you guys shot in your apartment. So, I mean, the mess must have been horrendous in terms of you had a lot of blood work going on in there. And what's funny, because when I'm watching this film, I'm coming from that independent film feel. So I'm sitting there going, oh man, they must have been clean that up. And I'm like, that somebody lives there. So it was that must have been just tough. Just the whole 30 days. I mean, I know you have to sit there and be probably it'll be over when we're over. We'll get it done. But right now we just got to get this stuff finished. I mean, congrats. Bravo. That must have been tough to go through.
It smelled terrible for sure, especially as it dried, which is the thing they don't tell you about fake blood. And it also dries like cement, and it glues everything down. Because I left it on the floors. I was like, we can't clean it if we need to do reshoots. I don't want to have to get it use all this blood again. So we left it there probably for way too long. And I had to eventually clean it after a month with a paint chipper,
paint scraper.
And it was going down on the floor, trying not to scratch the wood floors, try to get just the blood off. And apparently I didn't do a good enough job, because as we sold the apartment, we had the real estate agents oh, you got to paint the place, to sell it. I'm like, okay, well, it sounds fine, whatever. So the painter comes through, and I guess I hadn't opened this curtain in a long time. And I pull the curtain open, and on that window kind of shade thing is a giant blood spray from the movie. And the painter, I thought, was going to lose it. He was like, oh! And of course I'm like, oh, that's fake. That was for a movie. And it's you're in LA. Everyone does that.
I was going to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad when we were living there, because when we were shooting the movie, because we were so crazed and there was so much going on. It was just whatever, hot set, just leave it be. But yeah, 30 days out, 60 days out, getting some pickup shots. It started smelling bad. It started looking bad. You start feeling like you're living in a war camp, gone wrong. It was just, it was pretty disgusting.
So obviously, Field and I, we've had our own productions. We've done indie stuff before. And as Field said, and you guys have said, it's not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot of work, a lot of heart, to be able to get through it all. So what advice would you guys give now that you've gone through the saga of ZombieCon Volume 1 for filmmakers maybe looking to produce and create their own stories, to put out their own films?
Do it in your early 20s.
No. Yeah.
No, really, it's like you said earlier, Mike. It's like organized chaos is the best way to describe it, and go lean into that chaos. You know, things are going to go wrong, no matter how much you plan. You know, even on the biggest budget sets, like things always go wrong. So they're especially going to go wrong on an indie set. Don't get frustrated by it, even though it is frustrating. Try to always find a creative solution. And I think it will sometimes happen that those creative solutions will be highlights in your film.
Mhm.
And so just try to have the best attitude you can about it and be prepared for the worst to happen. And that way you'll be able to salvage the day and get something usable, and don't let it discourage you. Just keep attacking it with the full force of enthusiasm you had that got you started with making films in the first place, and trust that will be enough to get you through, because it will.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I hate to sound repetitive, but mine is as well. It's about your mindset and your attitude, because you're going to always have something to stress about, and
Mhm.
you just have to get through it, because you're then going to move on to something else and things are going to go wrong and you'll have something new to stress about. And I mean, even right now, like after all this time, the marketing of the film, the release of the film, there's constant new things that you're having to learn and hurdles to overcome, and a lot of things going right, but a lot of things going wrong, and learning lessons. And it's never going to stop. And there's never like, I always remember during production being like, okay, at the very end of like the last 30 days or whatever it is, when we got our last shot, like that's when I'll feel like I can really breathe. And you do get a breather. But then it was on to, oh God, we got to start the post-production. There's all this paperwork follow-up. And there's just always something that you're going to be stressing about and learning. So keep a good mindset. Like Kyle said, hold tight to that enthusiasm that made you crazy enough to start it, because you're going to need it, and it'll be worth it in the end, because it's a journey where you're learning so much, and hopefully you got some really good people around you, because you'll get some really good experiences and friendships out of that too.
No, absolutely. When everyone's pulling in the same direction, it's something special.
Mhm.
Absolutely. What has the feedback been like? With obviously with this new iteration of Volume 1, like what's the feedback been like from people you've shown it to, or even if people that you've worked with, just kind of like give us a sense of what you've heard.
Overall, overwhelmingly positive, like shockingly
Yeah.
so. I know, especially when like, of course, there are negative reviews or things that people harp on. Like they're saying, you can tell it's indie, and people say, well, the sound design is a little bit loud here, a little bit quiet there. Certain people
Mhm.
get a little bit on about the runtime. But literally, those are the only things that ever pop up. It's just been strangely, awesomely nonstop. Look at this film with so much heart. Look at this film that had a
Mhm.
small budget, but that executed so well. The practical effects and the characters and the chemistry. It's been like we were prepared, after 10 years in post production, there's not much that you could say that's going to make us like, we're
Yeah.
fine. Our sense of
Yeah.
self, like we're grounded by now. We got this. But it's been pretty amazing, the amount of love and outpouring, whether people are horror fans or they're anime fans, or they are familiar and are cosplayers with the con culture themselves, or are totally like separate from all that, but just saying, oh, it was a really fun ride of a film. Like they were having fun with it. I enjoyed it at the end of it. We've been pretty overwhelmed by the good feedback.
Awesome.
Yeah. After the 10-year journey, like Erin said, I felt like we were on the Titanic, and I was bracing for that iceberg and just wasn't really expecting anything. And, I was always like of the mindset, well, if one person likes it, that'll be enough. But we've had a couple of like really stellar reviews where people were really like into it. They totally got it. And it's been like, it still hasn't hit me on an emotional level yet, because I've built up my defenses so much to like, because if you let the good ones in, I feel like you're going to let the bad ones in too. So, and Erin said, yeah, the bad ones have been few and far between. But it's starting to feel very real. And that is just after such a long journey. It's really, really rewarding, and it kind of makes the 10 years of pain and sacrifice, it's starting to really feel worth it. And the fact that people are enjoying it and the characters, it's a true pinch me moment.
And I'll share a cute little story on that, especially when they
Sure.
first were starting and the like reviews were just like starting like drip, drop, come in. I would be the one on social media usually, and so because I'm managing them, and so I would immediately call Kyle. I'd give a scan first and see if it was good or it was bad, and I'd call him and say, "Oh, we got a review." And in those early days, immediately he'd be like, "I'm coming down. I'm leaving my desk. I'm coming," because we work from home. And we would sit there together and like watch the video, or I would read it and he would listen. And whether it was amazing, good, maybe negative, we would celebrate it together. And I'm happy to say now, like so many months have gone by and we're getting so many reviews that now the calls are quicker. It's, "We got a review. Is it good? Is it bad? Okay. What's her name? I'm excited to see it." But in those early days, it was really sweet. It was like, let's pause everything in the world. Let's sit down. Let's go through it together.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, it's it also, I mean, in this business, you have to have a tough skin. Obviously, you have to understand where that feedback's coming from.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, yeah, even the bad ones, there might be something in there that you're like, okay, I get that. But when you know where it's coming from, it's great. You kind of can process it a little better. But something we talk about in the show all the time is, you know, sometimes movies just don't connect with certain people. Sometimes, you know, certain people just don't connect with a film. And sometimes a movie does connect with somebody. You know, that's like our whole premise with Forgotten Cinema is that, you know, movies could be great for me. It could be Mike could hate them, I could love them, but that doesn't matter. It's the conversation that we're having is more important. So I think that it's really cool that, you know, when you connect with somebody and they get the movie, I feel like that's a little bit more like, awesome. That's great. And if I've had people come up to me. I made a movie a long time ago. This isn't about me. I apologize. I promise. Come up to me and tell me like, it was all right. And I'm like, thanks for watching, man. Like, it's just like, all right, high five. You know, it's just like, what are you going to say to that?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, but that's great. Yeah. That's great that you're getting positive feedback, which I think anybody that's in the independent film industry, I think understands what you're doing, what you're trying to go for. And I mean, I know I always have an affinity for indie films. I know Mike does a little bit. I think I have a little bit more affinity with certain films, especially I came up in the 90s. So indie film was like, that was it. That was like kind of like the birth or the rebirth of it. So I really appreciate just, you know, people getting a camera, getting a bunch of people together and shooting and trying to, you know, put something together. And it's so I definitely felt that with this film. So, you know, I think that's great that you're getting more feedback like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I will say that, you know, if there's any financiers out there who want to give us $100 million for Volume 2, I promise it will be perfect. The perfect film.
They're going to put you in a giant room with the blue screen everywhere, and then you're going to go for
it. Hey, we won't be having to scrape up any blood off the floors.
There you go. All digital. Everything's digital. I referenced the 90s. And back in the day when you made film, you're just trying to make it. Just trying to make the movie and put it out there. There was never a sense of marketing. There was never a sense of, once you make this, you know, now what am I going to do? It was always just like, make the movie. And then when you're done, you were like, okay, now what? But nowadays, obviously, you have to think ahead. So I'm curious, you know, what part of that conversation were you having when you were developing this, when you were shooting it, in the pre-production, production stages, when you were thinking about, what are we going to do marketing wise? Like, what can we do here that is going to help propel this? Oh, you know, you talked about the photo shoot. Like, how much does that work into the pre-production production of a project like this? Just kind of like what comes next.
I think a lot of in terms of like when we were getting ready for the production itself, I think we were definitely thinking of potential markets. So the idea of zombies, horror, obviously mixed with the con culture. I was like, oh yeah, there seem like enough genres in there. Someone will watch the film eventually. But it wasn't until we actually got the film in the can that we're like, oh wait, we have a movie. We've got to think about what happens next. And that's when kind of the gears started rolling. And we're like, well, you know, it's about Comic-Cons. It's about cosplay. I mean, this is a great opportunity, and it has nothing to do with my personal desire to go to Comic-Cons and LA Comic-Con and Anime Expo. This is a completely selfless move by me just to market the movie. And so we started going to like LA Comic-Con and Anime Expo and small local cons, and sharing about what the movie was like before it was done, and like telling people this is what we're doing, and we hope you'll check it out when it's done. And we probably jumped the shark a little bit on how early we kind of started doing that. We could have waited a long time, but again, it had nothing to do with me wanting to do these things. It was simply for service of the movie.
Of course.
Yeah,
but that was a
went
big
to lot
part of like,
and
yeah.
Yeah, we went to a lot of cons, big and small, and we had booths, and we had a couple different preview screenings, and we were filming cosplay videos, and we were showing the trailer. And so we kind of like saturated the SoCal con market, but that was its own awesome part of post-production, kind of like a welcome relief, because we got to be on the ground with our target audience and our people, our fellow nerds and geeks who totally get this film, and sharing it and enjoying cosplaying ourselves, and just feeling as well. I will admit, because you were talking about distribution and whatnot, that at any of these conventions there might be someone who's gonna see this film there and think, oh, I know someone, or I have a company and I know how to market this. And we did get some of those people here and there and some business cards, but there was no solid distribution that came from the conventions, unfortunately.
But we did get to go to Comic-Con twice, like in San Diego.
Yes, we
and
did.
That was so cool.
Awesome. And we did preview screen at LA Comic-Con twice and at Anime Expo. And those are like 100,000, or I think one of them is 300,000. I think that's Anime Expo attendees. And so like it was a pretty pinch me moment when, you're getting to screen in front of that many people and invite that many people. And now I'm not saying that 300,000 people showed up to our screening,
No.
but
No, they did.
we were dreaming. We were dreaming when we were inviting them.
No, but we did, our first preview screening at LA Comic-Con, we did have a totally packed room. We filled out the entire room for it, and it was one of the most magical. Yeah, it was the most magical experience, and like without giving spoilers like really away, but the scene in the tunnels where we find out about Javier, and I'll kind of leave it there. Mm-hmm. Like the whole crowd was like cheering and going wild for that moment, and that was like, Erin,
that was a win. That was a big win.
It's working. The movie's working. People get it.
That was a good day. Oh, absolutely.
That's awesome. So I guess obviously you said you've written up through volume 10, or you have a plan for volume 10. You've written a bunch of them. So volume 1 leaves a little bit. Volume 5. Okay. So you've left a little bit of an open-ended scene at the end of volume 1. We don't have to spoil anything. So can you give us a hint of where the story might be headed next?
Absolutely. Yeah. So even though all of our actors have aged absolutely beautifully, there is a 10-year time gap between the first one and the second one. So we're entering kind of into a rebuilt Armageddon landscape, a little bit of Mad Max, a little bit of, later version in The Walking Dead with, a self-built shanty town and, repurposed technology. And our characters have ingratiated themselves into this town, keeping secrets from the first movie from everyone else. I won't go too much into that because it'll kind of spoil it, but, especially keeping Rocket's secret, a secret from everyone else. And Erin, or Claire, has become kind of a Sarah Connor version of her character, now obsessed with the idea that she's wearing the guilt of having started the apocalypse, and is taken on kind of defeating all the zombies onto her own shoulders, which introduces one of my favorite aspects of the second film, which is an element called the Flyers. And basically, Claire runs a team of basically ballerinas who all enter battle via aggro drones, and they hang from the bottom of like those large aggro drones that will spray down a field or seed a field or something.
Right.
and they drop death from above. And that's just kind of one of the small battle elements. But we get a huge battle scene. We've got a giant zombie truck, which has been always like my favorite part of every zombie movie, where we retrofit a giant hulking vehicle with like every repurposed weapon imaginable and get to drive that through the zombies and do all kinds of stuff and start to explore a little bit more of, you know, what is this stone that has kind of created this whole process. And there's a whole mythos and storyline behind that element that is slowly drip fed through, you know, the next 10 volumes and becomes much more of a mainstay. And that's kind of very anime inspired, like think like devil fruits in One Piece type thing that slowly gets introduced into the story.
If you would say that the couch, which I would agree, is a character in ZombieCon Volume 1, the Rockets couch, for ZombieCon Volume 2, their van is absolutely the equivalent. It is another giant character of that film and something that we're all really excited about. So yeah, we definitely are hoping that some financiers are listening to this, because this is not a cheap sequel that we are planning. It is definitely an expansion of the world and the budget. We can, pair it up, we can pare it down. We got plans, but it would be amazing to get to really see that vision come to life, because it takes the small indie gorgeous like roots of the story and seeing how this all started, and then takes and expands it to like, an epic saga, which would just be insanely awesome to get to film.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
to be honest, I've been thinking about it from a technical standpoint, and with the evolutions, and I know AI is very frowned upon, but for the indie filmmaker, I think it's going to open up a tremendous amount of doors, not to replace actors or replace people's jobs or anything, but when looking at these more expansive stories, the fact that you can now digitally replace very cheaply and easily and without a lot of technical know-how, a tremendous amount of space with expansive environments or zombie hordes or, kinetic energy, basically vehicles or things that would have been basically impossible when we started filming this. I think it really is going to open up the door for indie cinema the way that we have never seen, where you're going to have films that can compete with the biggest Hollywood blockbusters, but still have that heart and that passion that is so universally true with all indie cinema. So I'm super pumped. Yeah. We're making ZombieCon Volume 2. We're going to start next year. I don't care if a financier comes or not. We're going to find a way to do it.
I mean, if the studio's using AI, there's no reason why you shouldn't use AI. And it's a tool in your tool belt. You should absolutely be able to use it, to kind of expand your universe. So no, I don't see any problem with that. ZombieCon Volume 1's on DVD now or Blu-ray, is that right? Or what? So where is it? Where can if I don't know if I'm I meet somebody and they're like, hey, what's this movie? I'm like, well, here's where you can find it. Where do I tell them?
So you can tell them. If you're in US or Canada, then you can access it basically on any streaming platform that you can buy or rent movies, primarily Amazon Prime and Apple TV. But if you would like to buy the DVD, it's currently on Amazon Prime, and we don't have a Blu-ray yet. Currently, it's just the DVD, but on the DVD, we've got some insane bonus features. We've got extended scenes, deleted scenes. We've got behind the scenes clips seeing how things were filmed. And then probably the most fun that Kyle and I are so excited about is the filmmaker's commentary. And we're sitting on the couch that Kyle's sitting on right now, which looks a lot like the Rockets couch, but it's not. It's
an upgraded version. I was thinking that.
Yeah. That couch is long gone, unfortunately.
More complete,
God rest its soul.
Covered in blood?
We sat on one, and we recorded our filmmaker commentary, watching the film back, holding our 7-month-old, like going down memory lane. It was really cathartic. And if you liked this film and you watched it, you've got to see the filmmaker commentary. It's like just stuffed with Easter eggs and info about everything ZombieCon related.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the behind the scenes shot mainly on iPhones from people on set in the background is something we found out like years later when someone was like, "Hey, we got a bunch of these videos we shot. Oh yeah, send it to us." And they are insane. They show you how indie this production actually was.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Hey, thank you for, talking with us. Thank you for sharing this movie with everybody. Thank you for just sharing the experience of just putting this film together. I think that I think anybody that listens to us and is going to watch this knows where we come from. So it's really cool that we can share a story like this that we kind of always champion on our show about indie film and telling your story. I think a while back, I think Butler and I were talking about just like, making movies and like, just go make it, just go make something, just start. And so I think this is just a testament to that, because this is kind of like, the next progression of that. So I wish you well. I hope that you do get those financiers, if you're listening, rain money down so that they can get volume 2 in the theaters.
Okay, we're ready.
And if you do get money, I want credit for that. No, I'm just kidding. But that's great. But thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mike. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, yeah, just check out ZombieCON Volume 1. We're also doing a now showing for this film as well, so check out that episode, or it's going to be part of this. We haven't decided yet. It's either going to be right after this, or right before this, or its own thing. So
you can tell we're really put together with what we do.
Yeah.
I love it. But you wanted to see how the interview went first, like if we were just total like whack jobs that you just wanted nothing to do with, or like we actually somewhat were entertaining. Fair. Thank you guys so much for having us too. This has been amazing, and any chance that we can get to chat with fellow like filmmaking community, film lovers, etc., is an awesome time for both Kyle and I. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Our pleasure.